What's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're talking about how to get out of our own way, leverage systems and freedom. We have a great guest on the show, Verl Workman, who some of the audience might be familiar with. It's his first time on the show, but it's definitely not his first rodeo. So he's been coaching some of the top teams in the country, him and his coaching staff. So we're going to get into a bunch of stuff. We're talking about lead gen and conversion. We're going to talk about iBuyer and some of the other options that are out there in the marketplace and how to compete and overcome them and deal with that challenge that we're all facing. So a bunch of stuff, as always, to get into. So first of all, in the co-pilot seat, the junior grandmaster, Greg McDaniel, what's up today?
Good morning. It is a good day. I'm excited to kind of hear about this whole how we can become our own iBuyers and kind of how that would work out. I think that would solve a lot of problems for a lot of people, and it'd be just interesting to. I was talking to a couple of agents that they are a part of Compass, and I didn't know this, but these agents say that the owner or leader of Compass, I forget his name, is openly and very publicly saying, like, hey, stay away from Zillow, stay away from iBuyers, go create your own relationships, stop funding. I guess his quote was, stop funding your own funeral. And I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good term there. And so I'm interested to see what some of these top teams are doing and how they can become their own best. I guess I don't know how they can become their own opposite side. I guess they don't have to go to a third party anymore. So I'm fascinated to hear about this. So let's get the party started.
All right, Verl, officially welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, and it's cool to get to know you guys a little bit and look at your following and the business that you've created. And I want to congratulate you on your success. Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, thanks. We're excited to have you.
Our pleasure.
Well, I love that.
Yeah.
So we'll just ask me anything, and I'll get right into it.
Here, let's do it. Let's start with this first. Give me just a quick, 1 or 2 minute overview of the journey, kind of how you got into the coaching side and what you're doing or what your real estate business looked like before you got into coaching. And I don't know if if it's consistently running in the background while you were running the coaching business or if you shut that down. I'd love to hear just a little bit about the journey before we jump into the current stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. But I was, I started selling when I was 8 years old. So if we start there, it's a long story. And as a Cub Scout, I learned that you can't eat what you sell. So I got in trouble for eating my chocolates when I was out selling them. So I had to knock that off. I was, in my young 20s, I was in retail and I sold satellite dishes and hot tubs, and we had retail stores, and that was a phenomenal business. But I didn't pay attention to what was going on in the marketplace, and I was selling these big 10-foot satellite dishes. And Ultimate Electronics opened up a store next to me with these little 18-inch dishes, and my margins went from $1,000 a sell to $68.
Oh,
during my going out of business sale, I sold 7 $10,000 home theaters to a production builder, one for each of his married children.
Wow.
And as I installed them all, he came back to me and he said, "Hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to stay in hot tubs." And so I did a little foray into hot tubs. And one day I got a phone call, and it was from his CEO that asked me, he said, "What do I have to do to get you to come sell houses?" And at the time I was pretty broke. And I said, "Well, you'd have to pay for my real estate school, and I need $5,000 a month to pay my bills while I'm in it." And he said, "Done." So I'm probably one of the few people you'll ever meet that actually got paid to go to real estate school and put on a salary. Because he believed more in my ability to sell than I even did in myself. And I got my license in 10 days. I did my 90 hours and started selling new constructions. And within literally 6 months, I was a sales manager and running a big production builder, a builder as a sales manager. And we sold just a boatload of houses. And so that was my foray into real estate. I got in as a sales guy. I was selling hot tubs at the state fair, and then I was selling dirt. And it was really fun because I realized when I first came into real estate that there was no one was doing any sales training. I was listening to Zig Ziglar and Og Mandino and Tom Hopkins, and I was reading their books, and I was always studying how to be a better salesperson. But I came into real estate, I went through all the real estate training in school, and no one was actually teaching you how to sell anything. They were teaching you how to not get sued.
Right.
So I came into real estate as a sales guy, and I kind of felt like it was like taking candy from children. It was a business that was fun. And then I started, the guy that owned the computer store next to my satellite dish store came to me one day and said, "Verl, we got to figure out how to sell laptops to realtors." And I said, "Why? I don't need a laptop. I'm making more money than I've ever made. Life is good." He says, "It's the future." So we started putting on these little 50 people half-day seminars where we would sell a Texas Instrument 386 with a digital camera that you had to plug the cable into to transfer a photo. And we would load Top Producer on it and a picture of the realtor for $7,000. And we would do these little seminars, and we would sell those. That became my first, kind of opportunity to speak. We ended up selling that company to Homes.com. And when Homes.com bought us during the .com frenzy, that's what really launched me as a speaker and a presenter. After I left Homes.com, I wasn't able to compete with them, and so I couldn't do coaching on technology. So we started coaching on best practices, sales strategies, and business. And that's really how I got into coaching. This company, Workman Success Systems, that we have today, now has 50 coaches. We coach primarily teams, people that are $100,000 in gross closed income that want to go to $1 million, and everybody in between. I think my biggest team this year did a little over $6 million in gross closed income. And so we're coaching a lot of people in the United States and Canada that really look at the business differently. So we get them to think differently and act differently. Most realtors create really good jobs for themselves. Yeah. And what we want to do is we want to help them create great businesses that continue when they stop working.
Yeah, love it. Couldn't agree more. And that's what I want to start there. So it's a perfect segue because we were talking a little bit before we went live just about, what are agents really addicted to? We were talking a little bit about chaos and things like that. But you made a great point, which is that they're not as addicted to chaos as they are to the idea that they are essential to the transaction, that the consumer must have a relationship with them. And I'm sure you run into this because you deal with this a lot at the small team level, because usually small teams are based around one top producer, and usually the team is named after them. And I'm assuming that's usually at the point where they're getting to you, and then you have probably a lot of interesting habits and beliefs that you have to deal with at that point. So I'd love to start there. How do you help someone that's kind of in that paradigm or in that concept where they have to be the center of everything, and they believe that's what's best for the consumer? How do you get them to move away from that?
Great question. It was really interesting because this morning, every Friday we have a coach training call, and all of our coaches call in from wherever they are, and we deal with client problems and new things that are happening. And the topic came up from one of our senior coaches. Said that, hey, I finally gave away my last buyer, and I felt like it would really be hard for me to do, because a year ago she said I could never stop working with buyers. They love me, they need me. I'm on all the marketing. They were referred to me by my children's elementary school teacher, so I have to help them. And I said to her, you're not really helping them when you're at your kid's soccer game, or when you're having family time, or you're on date night and you don't pick up their phone and answer it, and you don't have anybody else helping them. And so you think it's about you, but you're not really providing as good service as you think. We all have, most single agents have all these leads that come in. They work with the ones that are ready to go right now, but they're so busy they don't really work to be in the C leads for the lifetime of that lead. And so they never get converted. So their perception is they really need me, but the reality is you suck. You're not even following up with the B and C leads. And so someone needs to tell them the truth and let them know that it's not about them. And if they take themselves out of the interaction and say, how do I do what's best for this person that's calling off my sign? Or how do I do what's best for this person that was just referred to me by my kid's school teacher? What's best for them is someone who's dedicated to their success in finding a home. It's all about them. They don't move because of the realtor, and they don't sell a house or buy a house because of the realtor. They buy or sell because of life events that happen, and they just believe us as agents are going to provide a great experience to help protect them and make sure they get what they need. And if you have all your conversations about them instead of about you, it's really easy to transition working with buyers. I mean, my gosh, a buyer takes 20 hours. To go get a listing takes an hour and a half. When I list a property, I'm going to sell the listing plus 1.5 buy sides as a result. So the hour and a half I spend with a listing is going to equal 2.5 transactions. Or I can get one buyer and work with 20 hours and do one transaction. Where would you tell me to spend my time?
Yeah, and Greg, I'm sure you've seen this because I know you enjoy working with buyers and stuff like that. So I'm curious to get your perspective on it. How easy is it? Because you've always worked in a kind of a partnership or a family team environment where there may be like let's say a senior point of contact, but you've always made the sale on why you should work with your team based on the fact that they're working with multiple people and a team of specialists. So I think that would help people in the audience kind of understand, how are you presenting that when you go into a listing presentation or the initial meeting with the buyer and you're the head of a team and they're not always going to be getting you, and you have to make that clear. How do you make that clear while still conveying that you actually give better service?
It's pretty simple. I mean, what I say to them is, you know what, I'm going to be your main point of contact. If you need anything, or if anything is going to affect this transaction that would affect you, I will be having a conversation with you on the day-to-day information. If you need something on a daily basis, like if you need the best plumber, best rodent removal guy or gal, you need home inspections, if you need to schedule showings or anything like that, you will be speaking with Eileen. She's way better at that than I am, and she's on point 100% of the time. But so I'll have Eileen reach out to you, and she'll make her initial introduction, and so that you guys can get familiar with her. I don't really give them an option like, oh well, you could do this, you could do that. It's like, no, I'm not your guy for this, but I am here. I am going to walk next to you throughout this entire transaction, so you don't feel abandoned. And I think a lot of people feel abandoned. I lost a listing 4 or 5 years ago. People loved me. I mean, it was perfect, right? But what I failed to communicate remotely was the fact that they thought, as soon as they listed with us, that they were going to hand it off and that they would never see me again. And that's what they told me to my face. I said, oh no, I'm always going to be next to you. I'm always here. I'm half a phone call away. Just give me a ring and we can talk. And I said, is that the only reason why you want this other agent? They're like, yeah. And I know this other agent. They're a single agent, and you could hear it and see it in their body and their voice that they were devastated that they made the wrong decision, but they couldn't do anything at that point. So I said, okay, well, if I can do anything for you, if your home doesn't sell or whatever else, give me a ring. I'm right here, and I can pick up the slack. So that's how we do it. It's just very simple, very straightforward, and nobody's ever come to me and gone like, well, I really want you to do every single thing in my transaction. I said, I really don't want you as a client.
Right?
I just
totally agree with that.
I'm not going to be your bitch just because you need your hand held.
What's funny is that the consumer today is trained to deal with specialists. You go to the dentist's office, you get to work with a hygienist, somebody cleans your teeth, and then the dentist comes in, spends 15 minutes, fills the hole, then you walk back out and the receptionist schedules your next appointment. The same thing is true, except in real estate, we think we want to be all things to everybody. If I went to a dental office and the dentist came out and greeted me, I'd be scared. With real estate agents, the way we communicate it is we say, look, we've created a team, and you have a specialist at every portion of the transaction. So you got a specialist right now in helping you identify the property you want, a specialist in the negotiation. We have a specialist once it goes under contract to make sure everybody does what they need to do and it closes. And then after it's done, we have a concierge that helps make sure that all of the things that need to be coordinated to make your moving process work smooth is taken care of for you. And so you have a specialist at every area of the transaction. The consumer's used to it, they like it, and it separates you from the individual agent that says they can do it all. When I just had my back fused, and I went to the doctor, and my general practitioner said that he's going to refer me to an orthopedic doctor who does this as well. And my immediate response was, I don't want someone who also does back surgery. I want someone who only does back surgery, and that's all they do. And they get up in the morning and they do it 1,000 times. And I wanted the guy who did Tiger Woods back surgery. I mean, I want the guy that the best people go to, because you're messing with the most important thing. Same is true with real estate. People want specialists. And when you work with a buyer and you do it 60 times a year, you're just better at it than the average agent who does it 7. When you're really good at listing, you should list 100 to 120 houses a year. You're better at pricing, staging, negotiating than someone who only does it 7 times. And when you're processing the transaction, you just get better at it when you're doing it for a bunch of agents than when you're just doing it for one. So specialization creates better client experiences. And being a generalist is, I think, something that is going away. The margins have moved today from the broker owners to the team leaders. Team leaders now have margins because they can split with their team members and they can reinvest in the client experience, create better experiences for that customer.
Yeah, I'm curious, just real quick. This is a slightly off topic, and then we'll quickly jump back on topic. But I'm curious for your personal opinion and maybe a little speculation. If it wasn't for the fact that the world, starting with California, is trying to effectively I guess, move in the direction of taking independent contractors and making them W-2 employees. Like, if it wasn't for that, do you think there'd be more of that already going on in real estate if that didn't come with a bunch of penalties like additional costs for the team leader, like payroll, tax and things like that? If it wasn't for that, would we have already moved more towards more teams paying their agents salary plus bonuses and going more corporate?
I think that the impediment isn't the regulation. The impediment is the concept of the team leader's role to provide all of the resources and leads and everything for team members. So in California, you have the impediment where there's more regulation on teams and hiring employees and things like that. Most real estate agents, they can't even fathom the concept of having someone on their payroll. They're not even on their own payroll. They live paycheck to paycheck. And so The concept of having an employee is foreign to them. It doesn't make any sense. What happens when we start putting a lot of structure to our teams, they actually work more like employees, and I think it's actually smarter and a better business model to hire people because you can have more control over how they communicate with a client, what they say, and whether or not they follow your systems. So I don't think that's as big of an impediment outside of California as you believe it is. The bigger impediment is understanding your role and what you have to provide the team members. When we hire to our teams, for example, I don't say, come work for me, I'm going to give you all these leads. I say, come work for me, and I'm going to create an environment where you're going to make more money as a member of my team than you would be by yourself. I'm going to teach you how to hunt. I'm going to teach you how to convert leads. I'm going to teach you how to negotiate better than anybody on the planet. You'll be the best trained agent on the planet. And when you interact with a client, you have a high likelihood of winning. Even though you're working on a 40-60 split with me instead of 100% by yourself, you're going to earn more money because you'll do more transactions.
Yeah. Yep. Makes total sense. All right. So let's turn a little bit to what's going on out there right now. And obviously you're getting a chance to talk to and go behind the scenes with a lot of the top teams in the country. And the top teams tend to be the ones that are better at, especially lead conversion, although the numbers might not be eye-poppingly outrageous. I mean, we're talking about, anywhere from 1% to 3% of internet leads, for example, depending on the source and things like that. So tell me a little bit about what you're seeing, and especially with the iBuyer and the different offer mechanisms that are coming out right now. What are you seeing top teams? How is it affecting them? And then we can talk a little bit about what they're doing or what we can do to kind of deal with the challenge. So first of all, what are you seeing out there, and what's been the effect on the team so far?
So, okay, there's lots of things in that question. So I'll first deal with the conversions and questions. So, one of the first things that team leader will do is they'll go out, or even an agent that wants to grow, is they buy a high volume lead generator like a Boomtown or Commissions Inc. or Conversion or Real Geeks. I mean, they're a dime a dozen. It used to be a pretty exclusive thing. Now it's everywhere. So because there's so many of those, the number of leads you get for the spend has gone way down. So we're seeing a decrease in number of leads for the spend because of the competition on pay-per-click leads.
Right.
So what I used to be able to spend $1,000 for, I now have to spend $2,000 for the same number of leads. Mm-hmm. Second thing we've noticed is that the people from outside the industry that are coming in and being consumer focused are generating a much higher quality lead. I'll give you an example of that. So like a Commissions Inc. or a Boomtown lead, we're going to do 2%. If we're doing 2% on average, we're running a pretty good program. If someone's doing better than that, then they've got a longer-term platform and a marketing strategy goes way beyond that. But 2% is pretty normal. Zillow, we're getting 10% pretty regularly around the country. And because Zillow is an outside of the industry consumer portal that is giving a consumer a better experience. It's not about the realtor. It's all about giving the homeowner a better experience when they're looking for houses, and they generate a higher quality, more ready-to-go lead. I'm seeing the same thing with companies like Rocket Mortgage or Quicken Loans. They're doing mortgage lead generation, generating the lead, then selling it back to the realtor, and that leads a higher quality lead. So the people that are creating consumer experiences are generating better leads. And we have to, so I think that if you pay attention to these, some people call them disruptors. I just call it's the consumer saying the realtors aren't giving me what I want, so I'm going to build my own. And so they build their own portals and provide better solutions. That's what's going to kill us, is by not paying attention to what the customer wants and giving it and creating that experience. We've tried to control the data. We've tried to control the relationship. And the more we try and control it, the more that today's millennials push back and say, no one's controlling me. I'm doing it my way. Try and control me, then you have no chance at my business.
Yeah.
So that's the first. So lead generation. Anyway.
So that's the first. That's lead generation. Okay. So we've lost. Unfortunately, we kind of lost that battle. The portals like Zillow are doing a better job of giving the consumer the experience that they want, and then of course we're having to pay for the leads on the back end. So let's talk about a little bit about the iBuyer and some of those other mechanisms or new companies that are coming into the market that can make an instant offer. So how is that? How do you see that playing out? What's going on right now?
Yeah, I think it's a similar program than realtors have tried to do over the years. Some successfully and not others successfully. It's the guaranteed buy program. They just do it on the front end instead of the back end of the transaction. So agents have run programs where, hey, if you can't sell your house in 30 days, I'll buy it. And then they come up with a predetermined price that they'll pay for it. Well, now people with money, these hedge funds and these people that have big, deep pockets have come in and said, look, we know we can track historically our portfolios that we invest in real estate always go up. And even though there's ups and downs in the marketplace, over time it goes up, and real estate's a safe investment. So why don't we go in and offer 95% or even 90% of value to a consumer and buy the real estate today and give them the hassle-free process of moving. I listened to one of these ads on the way to work today, and it basically said, oh, you control the selling environment, move whenever you're ready, we'll make you an offer today, and you avoid all the commissions that you would have to pay to a realtor. That is so compelling. And so all that is it's an investor saying, I'm going to pay you less than today's market value because I believe that real estate's going to go up, and I'll just either rent it or flip it or whatever I want to do with it. So whatever, if you've looked at those offers and you've had clients that you've listed a property and an iBuyer comes in and wants to make an instant offer, we have started writing in contracts that we are privy to that entire conversation, and we help that seller negotiate with those online buyers or people that want to buy. So we'll help them during the listing process so it doesn't take them out of it. And the other thing is we ask our sellers that if they're going to entertain an iBuyer in a listing presentation, that they give us an opportunity to make an offer, because we have our own investment group that comes out and buys properties, and oftentimes we can make it a lot more hassle-free, and it keeps your transaction here locally instead of dealing with national people that don't have names and faces. And so we're working ourselves into every conversation where if that's going to be an option for the consumer, because they're hearing about it, we're just setting the stage that, if that's the direction you want to go, let us make you an offer. And we can get Zillow to make an offer, and we can get the iBuyers to make an offer, and we can look at them with the client, review them, and decide whether or not it's a good deal for us. And if it is, then we should buy it. I mean, as real estate agents that are doing transactions, you should be your own best client anyway. The people who build wealth in real estate buy real estate. They don't sell other people's. And so that's how we're doing it. We're just communicating it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and that brings up another point, because I think that is the real issue there is it's a communication challenge. Because if you can build the infrastructure, even if it's just a relationship with a solid investor, even the average agent could make that promise, like, hey, we can make an offer on your house too. So I do think it comes down to a lot of times on the communication, which we need to get better at. Let me ask you this. How many teams are you working with, or maybe you could nail it down to a rough percentage? How many would you say are kind of gearing up an investment arm to their business, or already have those relationships in place to where they can go into a listing presentation truly armed equally with the opportunity to list it or make an offer, or on behalf of themselves or an investor? How many people are moving in that, like moving hard in that direction?
I think it's pretty small. I think 10% of our coaching clients, it's probably 20% because we talk about it. Industry-wide, it's probably 1%. I think everybody likes to put their head in the sand and not believe it affects them until they start losing listings to them. And so, what we try and be ahead of it. When you notice that the market's doing something, a lot of people like to go away from it. We like to lean into the problem. So if there's a problem, we set ourselves up as experts by going and talking about it with our clients. A lot of our coaches do radio shows, they do different things, and they talk about the iBuyer, and they talk about Zillow. You remember a few years ago, everybody was telling it, Zillow's estimates were crap, and that, the clients were going on there, and then we go to a listing appointment, and we'd have to deal with the estimate that was way off. Well, we message to that. We do that ahead of time, and we show them how to bring their estimate up, because we know potential buyers are going there. So we want that valuation that they see on Zillow to be consistent with what we're selling the house for. So we actually use that data to set ourselves up as experts when we go in to present, so our clients have a strategy to deal with these other portals that are driving consumer eyeballs. But they need us to be able to do it. So that's how we stay in the transaction.
Love it. Yeah, I love the idea of leaning into the problem instead of putting your head down in the sand. Not only that, but obviously coming up with a way to address it and bring it up so that it doesn't even give the impression you're afraid of it as an objection. It's not even an objection. It's a legitimate concern, and you address it head on before they even bring it up. So I love the idea of doing that. And I could go all day, and I've got a bunch of questions more that we could ask you, but I want to make sure we talk a little bit about just how people can connect, and then we'll finish it off with a couple of questions before we wrap things up. So, Verl, what's the best way? Obviously, you've got a whole staff of coaches and systems and processes that you guys help implement. Tell me a little bit about who the ideal person is that really resonates with you guys and works well with you guys, that they know if they're in the audience whether it's them, and then what's the best way for them to reach out and connect.
I appreciate you asking the question that way, because we're not a good fit for everybody. So by asking who the right fit is, so we're a very strong values-based organization, and we believe that by helping someone be successful, the way we measure success is how they're successful in life, not necessarily how much money they have. And so if I help you make $1 million, but I do it at the expense of your family, then I believe I failed you. So we believe in helping people create great lives, and it starts by getting their house in order. So we do systems and process, and then we create leverage through technology and then through human resources, and that's who we coach. Our clients generally come in, if you're making less than $100,000 a year, we have online training programs to kind of get you to that point. Yeah. Once you're making $100,000 or more, then we've got a private coaching program for you, and our coaches are all in the business. And so when we give you a coach, let's say you're doing $1 million in gross closed income already, and you've got 3 team members. Well, I'll give you a coach that's doing $1.8 million and has a bigger team that's running high efficiency and very profitable as your coach. So I'm going to give you someone who's performing at a level higher than you. Yep. So we've got coaching levels. So we would do just a coaching consult. We'd look at your business, find out what you're doing well, and then we really look for where you're leaving money on the table, and we plug those holes first. So we lead with revenue. Yep. So the first thing we do is figure out where the money holes are, and let's plug them. Oftentimes it's in your CRM. A lot of times it's in the way you follow up with leads. A lot of people don't even follow up with leads. There's no lead tracking. It goes on. They have yellow sticky notes in their cell phone. So we'll plug those holes, and it's amazing when you plug a couple holes for people and they start seeing real money come in, then everything else you tell them starts to work at a much higher level. So that's really who our target client is, someone who wants more leverage. If you're a parent, a mom or a dad, or you're at a soccer game and you're pretending like you're there for your kid, but you're on your phone the whole time, you're an ideal client for us. We're going to let you be present when you're with the people that matter in your life by creating leverage. So if you're working all the time and you love work and you don't really care about anything else, you probably won't like what we do. We want you to live well, not work more. Yeah. So that's us. That's us in a box. And so the way you get a hold of us is our website is workmansuccesssystems.com. You send an email and you can send me a direct email, verl@workmansuccess.com. It's VERL, workmansuccess.com. Say, I heard you on the podcast. I'd love to talk to someone that could take a look at my business. I'd be happy to spend some time with you, or have one of our business consultants reach out to you. The other thing is we have tons of resources. And on another call, when I have some video working, I can show some things to your listeners of how we track things, and I'll even make some available resources to you just to give away, because I want to help people. If I can help you be more successful, just ask for it and I'll give it to you.
Awesome. Love it. All right, let's close out with talking just a little bit about freedom. What are 1 or 2 of the key systems that you help clients implement that creates the most freedom in their lives? And let's bring this down. We'll narrow the scope a little bit, and let's just say it's a top producer, rainmaker, listing agent. Maybe they've got a couple of buyer's agents or one buyer agent who can at least is already kind of taking off some of that extra work. So let's say they're doing 80-20 listings to buyers. They're kind of a typical profile, top producer making $100,000, $300,000 a year. What are the 1 or 2 key systems you'd have them implement that would create the most freedom for them?
Well, the first is the way they look at the business. I got to get them to think differently, and I want to remove them from being transactional. So I've got to turn them from being a realtor to being a CEO. So the first thing is to look at what occupies most of their day and delegate it. So instead of being a realtor, I want you to go from selling houses to business development and people development. So the first thing I will have you do is focus on developing your people. Agents are afraid of their team members getting better than them and leaving. I want to create an environment that's so strong with such great culture that I can teach you everything and you'll never leave me because I've poured so much into you. And so your role as a leader is to develop your people. So it's business development, making it rain, and people development, really developing your people. Greg should never go on an appointment unless he's got one of his people with him and he's really teaching them how to do it, so that when he's not available or he's choosing to hike, the Himalayas or whatever he loves to do in his free time, somebody else can go in and he'll know that client's getting the same experience whether he's there or not. So people development. And then the second thing is to really focus on profitability. Agents focus on cash flow. When's the last time you had somebody get an award for most profitable?
Never. It would be a very slim nomination list.
Right. We give awards for poverty, right? You're the 100% club. That means you sold enough houses to qualify for the highest level of Obamacare, and you deserve, food kitchen. You get an award for that. But we don't give awards for profitability. So it would be to focus on and really understand how to run a business like a business and know whether or not you're profitable. When you spend $1, are you getting 6x return on your lead source? If not, then we need to look at why. So tracking the right things, understanding your business, focusing on profitability, and developing your people. That's really the crux of running a successful business. And it doesn't matter if it's real estate or running a podcast show or doing selling hot tubs and satellite dishes. Those same business principles apply.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm excited because Greg is finally going to be able to fulfill his lifelong dream of hiking the Himalayas. I expect to get Facebook Lives all the way up and down the mountain from him now that he has some systems in place. He has a team manager and all that fun stuff. So, Greg, you can finally get out there and do what you've longed to do these many years.
The joy of my days. And I'm going to take pictures of little black rocks as they get smaller and smaller and say, is this where your heart is today, Matt? Or is this where your heart is today? What side of the heart is it today? Yeah.
All right, Greg, what's the best way to get a hold of you and why? Why should people get a hold of you?
Go ahead and give Matt a call at 402-311-7826. And you guys can call Matt. That's how you can get a hold of me. But how you guys can really get a hold of me is go to bookmcdaniel.com. Let's talk about EXP. Let's talk about how we can bring more value to you in your life, how we can show you how you can make more money with our team. I can show you how you'll make more money and not have to do as many deals because you'll have supplemental income coming in over time. So go to bookmcdaniel.com. Let's talk about EXP. Matt, let's talk about rating this show.
Yeah, head on over to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, whatever the case is. iTunes is a great place to do it. Leave us a 5-star review and a little rating there. You can make sure that you mention the guest. So if you enjoyed Verl's episode, make sure to give him a shout out. Thank him for his time and his contribution if you enjoyed the episode today. And Greg, shall we put a nice, let's put a little green bow upon this episode today.
Green for money. I like it. All right. So let's put a money bow on this show. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Verl, awesome to have you here with us today. We're going to have you back without a doubt because there's a lot of great information in here. We have Tim Corcoran who is watching. He says that you were his first coach and you are Capital's the man. So we need to have the man back. So we'll get you back. But guys, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you very much. And until next time, peace out, ninjas, because we're gone.